Hello and welcome back to A Life in Chapters, the cozy corner for book lovers, journal keepers, and anyone who wants a gentler approach to mindset. I'm Alison Wood and this is episode 17, Inspiration from a Rabbit Who Left His Mark on the World. Now, if you know anything about me, you will know this. My love of animals almost matches my love of books. The two have always sat side by side in my life. One gives me stories to step into, and the other has been part of my life in the most everyday, ordinary, and extraordinary ways. So today's episode begins on the floor beside a bookshelf. I was tidying, the kind of slow potter that counts as both housework maybe, and daydreaming, when I noticed a small scatter of teeth marks along the bottom drawer. They were so tiny you could miss them, but I did not. I knew exactly who had left them. Bertie was my house rabbit. I have shared my home with two rabbits, but this story belongs to him. And if you have never lived with a rabbit indoors, you might imagine a quiet creature who never, ever gets into mischief. And that was not Bertie. He was curious and stubborn. He loved a tunnel sprint, the whir of back paws on carpet, and a good flop in a patch of sunlight. So I tried to bunny-proof the house. I offered safe chews and willow balls and cardboard castles. Still, every so often, a forbidden object called his name. The bookshelf drawer was one such siren. He never ate the wood. That was not the point. He liked to test the boundary. A quick dig of sharp teeth into soft wood. A tiny scrape that said, "I was here." Now, sometimes I caught him in the act. He would pause with theatrical innocence, whiskers forward, as if to say, "What, nibble? Not me." And on this day, years after he died, I saw those marks and felt the old two-step of grief. At first I smiled because he was such a character, and then the tears came because I still miss him. Grief for an animal has its own language. It softens, it shifts, it can be quiet for weeks, and then all at once it rises. You reach out and touch the wood, and there he is again, bright as ever. My love of animals started long before Bertie. As a child, I could not bear animal peril on television. If there was a film with even a hint that an animal might come to harm, I was beside myself. I would leave the room, I would pace in the hallway and call back to ask if it was safe yet. Lassie gave me a weekly heart workout, and Greyfriars Bobby was worse. I felt the lives of animals so fiercely that a fiction could undo me. Books were a refuge, but also an amplifier. I read every animal story I could find and loved them so much that the love hurt, particularly if any animal came to any harm. I learned early that the dogs, cats, hamsters, guinea pigs, and rabbits we welcome into our homes become our teachers and occasionally dictators. They have opinions about where the sunbeam should go and why cushions are placed wrongly as a matter of general principle. So when I tell you I love animals almost as much as I love books, it is not a neat turn of phrase. It is the truth of my life. Animals and books taught me the same lesson: to pay attention and to care, to see that small lives and small moments matter just as much as the big ones. So sitting on the floor with my hand on the drawer, I began to think about legacy, not the kind that involves statues and encyclopedias, the kind that slips into a day and changes the temperature of it. Now, we are told to always think big, to leave a mark, to build a platform, write something that echoes for 100 years. And there is nothing wrong with big. It is wonderful when it happens. But honestly, most of us will not be remembered on that scale. I am the only child of an only child. I have no children. It is very likely that my name will fade from family trees sooner rather than later. Perhaps a blog post will linger. Perhaps a Medium article will float through a search result in 2040, and someone will wonder who that Alison girl was, but let's be honest, it's pretty unlikely. Now, realizing that there may be very little I leave behind could sound bleak. To me, in a way, it feels like fresh air. If legacy is not guaranteed by size, then meaning is not either. Meaning can live in the small. In fact, it often does. Think of the things that have helped you in the past year. A kind message that arrived at the exact right moment. A smile from someone who held a door open for you. A book recommendation that became a favourite read. A neighbour who noticed your bin was still out and wheeled it in. Now, none of these are headlines, but all of them are legacy in a way. They are small marks that change a day and sometimes change a path. Bertie's teeth marks are like that. They do not belong in a museum, but they do something gentler and stranger. They remind me that a life was lived here with cheer and curiosity. They remind me that relationship is the point. They are proof that joy leaves evidence. Animals and books have always spoken to each other in my life. A book can teach me a new way to notice. An animal can teach me to put the book down and practice. I have read the lines that say, "Be present." I've also watched a rabbit demonstrate presence by choosing a patch of sunshine and giving himself fully to it for 20 minutes. Books carry wisdom. Animals embody it. As a reader, I loved authors who wrote about animals with care. I love the stories in which the animal is not a prop, but a person with fur. Think of the quiet dignity in Black Beauty or the bravery in Charlotte's Web. These stories say what I felt even as a child. The world is a web of relationships, and we do not sit at the centre of it. If you keep a journal, open it now. If you do not, a scrap of paper will do. If you are out and about, then just let these words turn over in your mind and return to them later if you wish to. At the top of the page, write small marks that matter. Then choose one of these prompts. Prompt 1. What traces have the beings you love left in your life? Think of people, pets, places. A tea stain on a table from your aunt's favourite cup. A dent in a cushion where a cat used to sleep. A phrase your friend said that now lives in your head. Describe the trace. Describe how it feels to touch it. Prompt 2. Where have you left your own small marks? Not the polished version for a bio, the real ones. A casserole you carried up the road in the rain. A comment you left on a stranger's post. A playlist you made to cheer somebody up through a hard season. Make a quick list. Is there a theme? What does it tell you about what you value? Prompt 3. If legacy is less about being remembered and more about how you live today, what would you do this afternoon? One thing. Send the message, read the chapter, sit in the sun for 10 minutes and let your shoulders drop. Then let that be enough. There is a reason the small is not small. The small is where life actually happens. Big moments are often just clusters of little choices that finally tip into view. A book is built from sentences, and those sentences are built from single words, chosen and placed. A relationship grows because one day you made time to listen, and then another day you did it again. I often think of how a quiet piece of writing can travel. Perhaps I publish a blog post. It's a gentle story about a rabbit and a drawer. Somewhere a reader sees it on a tired Tuesday and feels less alone. They make a cup of tea and take a breath. Later that day they are kinder to their partner or to themselves. I never know about it, yet the ripple exists. You are making those ripples every day. That is also legacy. There are authors whose names will last for centuries. That can be thrilling. It can also be misleading. We say Dickens and picture fog and cobbles. We say Austen and feel a room brighten with wit. We say Christie and picture a keen mind at work. Yet even with all that detail, we do not know the private beat of their days. We know the work. And here is the part that comforts me. The scale is different, but the substance is the same. A paragraph that reaches across time and makes a stranger feel understood is not larger in kind than a cup of tea made for a loved one. It is larger in reach, that is all. Both are an offering. Both say I was here and I cared. Bertie enjoyed a dramatic sprint that began with stillness. He would flatten himself down to the ground like a pancake. A single ear would lift for reconnaissance. Then he would launch 2 quick loops through the tunnel, a skitter across the rug, a mid-air twist that was pure celebration. In rabbits we call it a binky. I call it pure joy in motion. He had an opinion about cushions. They were, in his view, badly placed by default and required relocation by determined nudging. He had a favourite spot behind a chair where he could watch the room while believing the room could not see him. If his dinner was more than a minute late, he would pick up his heavy stoneware dish and toss it across the room, usually when I was on a Zoom call. And when I read in the evenings, he would reverse until his back touched my ankle, the rabbit equivalent of a hand on your sleeve that says, I am here. Before bed, he would hop up on the sofa for our nightly snuggle. These are not achievements, they are moments, and they meant everything to me. If watching a rabbit or a dog or cat can teach a person anything, it is how to commit to the present. Animals don't worry about the future or the past. They commit to living this moment and to extract as much joy and comfort from it as they can. I want to speak to those of you who are quietly building something small. A blog with a handful of readers, a newsletter with a dozen names, a podcast that feels like a thread through your own week, a practice of walking every day at lunch and noticing one beautiful thing. You might wonder if it is enough. You might be tempted to measure it only by numbers. But here is what I know. Someone needs the small thing you are making because it will meet them at a human scale. It will not shout over their life. It will sit with them. Now, if that someone is you, that counts too. Building a small, meaningful thing that can be an act of care for yourself. It can keep you steady in an unsteady season. It can be a promise you keep to yourself. If you are building something small but meaningful, I see you. You are leaving marks already. They may look like teeth marks on a drawer. They may look like a routine that brings you back to yourself. And they matter. Thank you for listening to this chapter. And if you would like more gentle prompts and conversations about books and journaling, you are welcome to join me on Patreon. It is where I share extra reflections, printable prompts, and our bookish community plans. And it helps me keep making these episodes. You can find the link in the show notes. As we finish, take one soft breath with me. Notice one small thing near you that brings a flicker of joy. Let that be enough for today. And if a beloved creature once left a tiny mark on your world, touch it with your hand or your memory and say thank you. I will see you next time.